Today I'm going to share how you can avoid Prometric LSAT test day problems. Hey, what's up everybody? Steve Schwartz here from LSAT Unplugged, joining you today to share how you can avoid facing LSAT test day problems with Prometric, whether you're taking the LSAT remotely or in person. Before I get into it, a little bit about LSAT Unplugged. We offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. Check out the links below this video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd love to help you out. So the reason I'm making this video today is that it's become quite clear that Prometric simply is not up to the task of administering the LSAT either remotely or in person. The August LSAT was a complete disaster. The September LSAT had several issues as well. And so for anyone taking the LSAT in October, November, January, February, or beyond, unless LSAC is going to cancel Prometric's contract and switch back to Proctor U or something else altogether, I'm going to recommend that you take some radical steps to improve your situation for taking the LSAT and ensuring a smooth testing experience. Before I get into it, for those who aren't aware, the August LSAT was a complete disaster. Prometric did not have nearly enough proctors and their system was not working properly. Students were waiting several hours for a proctor or switched between several different proctors altogether. Watch my YouTube video, August LSAT Prometric Disaster, for more on this. The September LSAT had several issues as well, both with the proctors and tech issues. On top of that, the proctors, some of them were not behaving properly, to say the least. Some of them were sexually harassing test takers, both remotely and in person, and bothering them as well, asking them, why do you look nervous? It's quite frankly just absurd to me that this would happen. I can't imagine where they're finding these people or what kind of training they're undergoing, but they're clearly not right for the job. I'm going to read one of the threads on Reddit about this, as well as a message from a student who experienced test day issues. First, the Reddit post, then the message from a student. This one is titled, "Readiness Agent Hit on Me. Never did I expect this to happen. The agent showed up. He was a younger guy, and I'm 23F, meaning female. He asked to see my ID, and as I was showing it to him, he kept saying, oh, wow, nice, nice. He asked to see my arms and ears, and then asked to see my ID again. Once more, he was saying, nice, 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 over and over. Finally, he tells me he's going to check to see if the chat function works. He types hi. Then immediately after he looks at me, smirks and starts typing again. So fine popped up in the chat from him. Then he said, I wish you the very best of luck on this test. I know you will do very amazing. And he kept staring and smiling at me until I got connected to my actual proctor. So weird. It threw me off because I was really shocked by the interaction. I don't know what Prometric's deal is, LOL. Then we have one of the comments saying, oh my God, tell me why the same thing happened to me at my in-person testing center. The proctor kept hitting on me. He was complimenting my eyes, wishing me good luck, and asking me questions about myself, LMAO. So both remotely and in person, we have two different proctors sexually harassing test takers. Essentially, this is obviously not welcome behavior. These students are just there to take the test, not to get hit on. It's obviously not the right setting for this sort of behavior and not welcome, to say the least. I can't imagine what it would be like to go through that situation where you're showing up to take the LSAT either remotely or in person, and then you're dealing with this creepy proctor who's hitting on you. Completely unacceptable. I'm wondering, is Prometric monitoring these chats? Are they training people appropriately on how to interact and how not to interact with people who are just there to take a test? But I can't imagine taking the test with a proctor who's being a creeper, and you have to deal with them for potentially hours as you're sitting through the test, and you don't want to say anything because you don't want them to shut down your test or flag it, but you don't want to be harassed further and have this distraction in your mind when you're taking the most important test of your life up to this point, the number one factor in the admissions process. And so this is obviously completely unacceptable, and I'm hoping that by talking about this in this video and helping to spread awareness, that this will somehow get back to Prometric and they will take steps going forward. But of course, I do have some proactive recommendations I will share in just a few minutes. But before I get into that, I want to share another message from a test taker who had some issues with his proctor as well. He writes, the proctor continually chatted to me throughout, which was difficult, telling me things like stop covering my mouth and asking why I look nervous in the middle of a section, throwing me off more than I already was. Although I obviously don't know the score for sure, this was the worst experience out of the past 10 practice tests that I've taken. I'm considering filing a complaint on the LSAT website. Well, obviously, of course, this test taker should file a complaint on the LSAT website to raise awareness and, of course, avoid this issue for others going forward. But this is bizarre to me. I mean, to stop covering your mouth, I can imagine someone stressed out while taking a test, maybe kind of touching their chin or their lips a little bit, just as a nervous tick of some kind, or looking nervous is not a crime. I mean, you're taking an incredibly important test, and this particular student had also taken the LSAT the previous day, but faced tech glitches, and so they rescheduled him for the following day. So maybe one reason he looks nervous is because he was nervous, not because he was cheating or anything, but because his previous test had gone poorly, and he's hoping the same thing won't happen again. It's almost like a form of torture to ask someone why they look nervous when you are actively making them nervous by maybe being a creeper, or by being an incompetent proctor, or because the tech system is prone to crash or glitch at any point and you don't know if that's going to happen, but you're aware of the previous tech issues with Prometric, and so you're hoping and praying, crossing your fingers, the same thing won't happen again. So I'm hopeful that Prometric will learn from this, that they should train their proctors better, not to harass test takers for simply covering their mouth or looking nervous, because again, that is not a crime. Looking nervous is not a tell that you are cheating or doing something inappropriate. Obviously, it's one in a constellation of several other things that maybe in combination could be an indication of something suspicious, but in isolation is not a reason to bother or harass or interrupt a test taker during a very strictly timed exam. So again, yet another proctoring issue that I'm noting here. I've heard of other test takers experiencing similar, and of course, I want to help you avoid these kinds of issues going forward. So aside from simply, of course, using this video to log some of the common issues that students have been facing over the past LSAT administrations with Prometric, I want to give some practical advice for those of you taking the LSAT going forward in October, November, January, February, or beyond, assuming that LSAT does not just get fed up with Prometric and cancel them outright, which I think they honestly should at this point. My recommendation for anyone who can is to get special accommodations to take the LSAT on paper, in person, if at all possible. Obviously, not everyone will be able to do this, and of course, this is past the deadline for October. I'm speaking specifically for those here taking the LSAT in November, January, or beyond, because the deadline for those test takers has not yet passed. If you go on LSAC's website, there's a specific section devoted to accommodations titled Accommodations that may be available on the LSAT. If you scroll down on that page, you will see a header saying alternative testing formats. I'm going to read here from that section titled with the header Alternative Testing Formats. Alternative formats that may be available as accommodations for test takers within the United States, including Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands and Canada, include Unified English Braille, paper and pencil format regular print, paper and pencil format large print, for example, 18-point font or higher. So you see here that it is possible to get accommodations to take the LSAT on paper. Then if you scroll down further, you'll see that it says candidates approved for paper and pencil or Braille will be required to test in a testing center. This means if you get accommodations to take the LSAT on paper, you will automatically be taking it in person as well. To me, this is quite possibly a good thing, because when you take the LSAT on paper, that means you are not going to experience tech issues because you'll be taking it in person. You will be going to a Prometric testing center. You will be given a paper booklet that is your test form, and you will have a proctor there in person. So tech glitches are removed as a factor entirely. So you are less likely to have proctoring issues, I hope, when you take the LSAT in person at a Prometric testing center, because you're not going to be switched between several different proctors over the course of your exam like you might for the online remote LSAT. And hopefully your proctor is less likely to be a creep if you're taking the LSAT in person. Of course, that did happen in that screenshot in the comment that I showed earlier, but hopefully that was simply a more isolated incident, and the fact that you are there with them in person may be a moderating impact on their behavior. Again, I hope. Maybe there's some social pressure for them to behave if there are other people around. Again, I hope. There are no guarantees with this approach, but if you get the accommodations for the paper form of the LSAT and you're taking it in person, I hope and expect that you will minimize the likelihood of problems, because tech issues are not a factor and you're not as likely to have issues with the proctors as well. Now, there are some particular documentation requirements for taking the LSAT with special accommodations. If you're taking it with regular timing and just getting the alternative test form of taking it on paper, then you are in category number 1, where you will need to submit a statement of need explaining why you need paper accommodations, and you will also need documentation from a qualified professional, such as a doctor or psychiatrist. Now, when it comes to getting accommodations for taking the LSAT on paper, I've heard a couple of examples of conditions that may qualify. Some folks get migraines from looking at screens for too long, so if that's your situation, that would be a reason to take the LSAT on paper. Or if you have issues with your eyesight because you're looking at the screen for several hours, that puts a strain on your eyes, maybe gives you headaches, maybe hurts your eyes a bit. Those may be reasons for you to take the LSAT on paper. Additionally, if you suffer from ADHD or testing anxiety, those might also be reasons for you to take the LSAT on paper and potentially get extra time as well. Extra time might include getting time and a half, meaning 50% extra time, which would take your sections from 35 minutes to 53 minutes instead. Or alternatively, you might qualify to get double time, meaning 70 minutes per section rather than 35. Having extra time, of course, makes for a longer testing day, which may put additional strain on your eyesight or may make you more prone to risk of headaches or migraines because you're looking at the screen for a longer period of time, giving you yet another reason to take the LSAT on paper, which would, of course, also have the side benefit of allowing you to avoid these Prometric issues with the tech glitches, with the proctors and such. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please do me a favor and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Maybe you know someone else who's aware of the issues with Prometric from the August LSAT and the September LSAT. Maybe you know another test taker who's been stressed about potentially experiencing similar issues on the LSATs going forward later this year or early next year, and you want to help them avoid being in a terrible situation with bad proctors, bad tech issues, or both. And maybe you think that this video could help them navigate the accommodations process and, of course, avoid experiencing those issues going forward, which of course could help them get a better LSAT score and in turn help change the course of their entire legal career. When you share something valuable with someone else, they tend to associate that value with you. So sharing this video not only helps me, but also helps you. So please take a moment to share this video link with someone else who needs to see it. It may make a difference for them just as it has for you. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.